Imagine this: a quiet, unassuming couple books a relaxing Caribbean cruise in 1981. They are last seen dancing at the captain's gala, and the next morning they are gone without a trace. For 19 years, the ocean holds its secret, a cold case dismissed as a tragic accident. But then, during a routine naval exercise, a sonar operator finds a mysterious object resting on the seabed. What they pull up from the deep will expose a truth that has been buried for decades, a story of Cold War espionage, classified documents, and two innocent people caught in a game with no rules. Before we dive in, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of our deep dives into the unexplained. Introduction. The year was 1981, and leisure cruises were becoming the latest symbol of middle-class luxury. Daniel and Lorraine Whitaker, both 32, seemed like the perfect couple to enjoy such a trip. Described by friends as quiet, reserved, and bookish, they were celebrating their first vacation in over 3 years. On March 5th, they boarded the MS Ocean Gala for a 7-day Caribbean cruise. The journey was a classic one with stops in Nassau, San Juan, and St. Thomas before returning to Miami. They were last seen on night 4 during the captain's gala dinner. They danced, they drank a glass of wine, and then they simply vanished. Part 1. The Perfect Vanishing Act. At 6:45 a.m. the next morning, a steward entered their cabin to deliver breakfast. What he found was a scene of unsettling tidiness. The bed was untouched, their clothes were still in the closet, and their passports were in a drawer. The balcony door was open, and the sea breeze had blown the curtains across the room like pale ghosts. Daniel's wallet was on the dresser, but all the cash was gone. An immediate onboard search began with crew combing cabin's decks and even the engine rooms, but found nothing. The MS Ocean Gala was held at sea for an additional 6 hours, but no one had seen the couple leave the ship after dinner. A single, grainy hallway camera recording was their last known image, showing them walking hand in hand toward the sun deck at 11:08 p.m. The cruise company, Atlantic Pearl Lines, quickly stepped in with lawyers claiming it was a tragic accident and that the sea had claimed them. Insurance claims were processed and the ship continued sailing as the incident faded from the news. But Lorraine's sister Emily told a local reporter that Lorraine had been afraid before they left. She said the cruise wasn't just a vacation, but that Daniel had gotten into something. That chilling quote never made it to print, and the reporter who wrote it died in a car crash 2 months later. Part 2. The Missing Container. 6 months after the disappearance, an almost imperceptible change was made to the MS Ocean Gala's internal cargo records. It was a detail few people knew about, as passenger ships often carried small amounts of secured cargo under private contract. One such container on the March voyage was listed only as a private transfer diplomatic seal code 739A. It was the size of a single coffin, had been loaded in Nassau, and was meant to be offloaded in St. Thomas. But it never arrived. The container was logged as missing in transit, written off in insurance records, and buried under bureaucratic language. Years later, in 1993, a former crew member would anonymously confess that they were told to pretend the container was never on board. He said 2 security officers had stood by it the whole first day. And that same night, Daniel and Lorraine vanished, the container disappeared too. The connection between the missing couple and the missing container was at that time a ghost story. The official record denied the existence of both, but those who were there knew a different truth. Part 3. A New Lead from the Deep. In 1996, 15 years after the cruise, a researcher named Helen Moore was compiling a book on unsolved maritime cases and found a misfiled shipping ledger from Atlantic Pearl Lines. It listed container ID 739A, but with a shocking new detail, it was marked in red as removed mid-route due to incident. This directly contradicted every official statement. Helen dug deeper, and in an obscure appendix, she found a customs official had logged the arrival and re-export of a sealed diplomatic container on March 9, 1981, the same day the Ocean Gala docked in St. Thomas. The signature on the form was that of Daniel Whitaker, who was already missing and legally presumed dead. This discovery was the first tangible link between Daniel and the shadowy world of diplomacy and espionage. His signature on an official document days after his disappearance confirmed that he hadn't simply fallen overboard. It was a sign that something far more sinister had occurred. Part 4. The Navy's Discovery. The true breakthrough came in October of 2000, 19 years after the disappearance. During a routine naval mapping exercise off the coast of the U.S. Virgin Islands, a U.S. Navy sonar operator picked up a metallic echo. Resting 260 meters below the surface, initial analysis suggested it was a sealed, unmarked container, partially embedded in the ocean floor. With an unmanned submersible, the Navy recovered the object and confirmed it matched the dimensions of a diplomatic-grade container. Its serial number was scratched off, and it bore faint traces of biological material along the outer rivets. Inside, they found degraded documents, waterlogged electronics, and fragments of 2 wedding rings. One was engraved with Daniel and Lorraine Oct. 14, 1973. The container and its contents were flown under high security to a naval intelligence facility in Key West. Florida officials described the contents as organized and intentionally incomplete. Among the items were a disassembled radio transmitter, a half-burned document with the seal of the U.S. State Department, 2 unsigned letters, and a microfilm reel labeled 739 AE Protocol. The entire contents were flown to Langley, Virginia, within 48 hours. The only thing left behind was a photo of Lorraine smiling on the deck of the Ocean Gala. On the back, in fading blue ink, was a note that chilled everyone who saw it. "He thinks they're watching us. I believe him now." Part 5. The Final Pieces. The note on the back of Lorraine's photo was the final piece of the puzzle. In 2004, Lorraine's sister Emily passed away. While clearing out her home, her niece discovered a locked metal briefcase in the attic containing Emily's journal and copies of letters from Lorraine. The letters, which were never mailed, detailed how Daniel had gotten involved with something that was bigger than us, and that the cruise is not what I think it is. She wrote that a handoff was going to happen in Nassau, and that some people on the ship are not passengers. Emily had kept these letters hidden for 23 years, with a final note in her journal that read, "If you're reading this, then someone finally cared enough to look again." In 2006, a Freedom of Information Act request uncovered a reference to something long thought to be a myth operation, Blue Harvest. This program used low-profile civilians as unwitting couriers for classified documents to avoid Soviet interception. The name Daniel Whitaker appeared twice in a redacted memo, with one entry reading, "Asset no longer under full control. Extraction not recommended." Lorraine's name was never mentioned. According to reservation records, Daniel had booked the cruise for one person, and Lorraine's name was added just 8 days before departure without approval. This decision, her refusal to be left behind, compromised the entire operation. In 2011, a final piece of evidence emerged from a naval listening post, a panicked, distorted recording from March 9, 1981, of a woman's voice. She's heard saying, "They know, we have to. It's not just us. Daniel, don't. Interference, they're coming," before the signal cuts out. This was Lorraine's voice captured for 17 seconds and quietly archived by a handful of investigators as her voice at last. Daniel and Lorraine weren't just passengers. They were pawns in a Cold War game that had no rules. They didn't fall overboard. They were pulled under by silence, by protocol, and by history. The tragic story of Daniel and Lorraine Whitaker is a haunting testament to secrets buried beneath the waves. It leaves us with a lingering question: how many other cold cases are not accidents, but simply stories the world chose not to see? If this deep dive into true crime and unsolved mysteries captivates you, please consider subscribing to our channel and hitting that notification bell. Leave a like and share your theories in the comments below. Your support helps us bring more compelling stories to light. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.